Recording up.
Okay, now we'll have the transcript.
But we should do that regardless anyway, right? Because it's gonna have the first part recorded as well.
Budget committee meetings weren't typically recorded in the past, but they can be moving forward,
Okay,
so.
So for the record, since we started the recording, I was the chair. We had Sonia,
Sophia.
Sophia Latchkey take left,
yep,
elected vice chair, and then we had Wayne Johnson, elected board clerk. We did not make an appointment of recording secretary. I don't see any. I don't know if you can tell if there's any hands raised on Zoom or not.
We do not have any errors.
All right, so we'll move on to number 6, which is establish meeting dates and times. So I know we're on a compressed cycle because we have to do a revote. We have to do another town election. And do you want to just real briefly just give us the dates of what you have in place?
Yeah, so what I have in mind is a special town meeting on Saturday, May
second.
2nd, with voting on May 5th.
Yeah, on a Saturday and on a Tuesday.
Yep.
Okay.
And I believe we need to have the budget in place and warned no later than April 9th.
April 9th,
I think April 9th would be the target date.
target for warning.
14/21.
And then so the select board between now and April 9th, do you have the select board dates?
Yes, we have a select board meeting on March 23rd, and we have a select board meeting on April 13th. And I believe we're gonna have to call a couple of special select board meetings. We're gonna discuss timeline on one day.
So April 13th is after April 9th.
Correct.
So we have March 23rd and April what?
We have April 13th, but that would be, and I need to get clarification on the special town meeting warning. We may still be able to make final decisions on April 13th. I think the budget committee, for the budget committee's purpose, April 9th, 10th would be like.
That we would be done with our.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So we're gonna brief, we'll give a brief update to the select board. We'll plan on that for Monday, coming month.
Yeah,
On the 23rd. And so I'm thinking, have you anticipated if today's Tuesday, the 17th? I'm wondering if we update the select board the 23rd. Let's see, there's ECA meeting Tuesday the 31st. I'm just wondering when a good plan for a next meeting would be in between, or we could update the select board and then based on the select board's feedback, schedule a meeting.
I think we're gonna have to do that because we determined we had no days left for the rest of this week. Unless we meet early before the select board meeting. And I'd be okay with that if everybody else, but that's an awful long day of. Doing this and then sitting through a select board meeting.
I personally don't mind doing it on the same date,
Okay,
or we can do other dates as well. I'm
Okay.
flexible, so.
the other thing I just wanna verify is that we don't step on the school
Right.
going forward, so.
Yeah.
We did it today because we knew we had to start, but I've heard from several people that they really wanted to be involved in both and they can't be.
Understandable.
If we're, and so I don't know when they're scheduling their meetings, but we need to somehow. Like, I don't know if I can be messaging with someone if they're doing anything else on their side. Are they doing a budget committee as well or no?
I believe it's a school board meeting tonight.
School board tonight.
Right, but are they also having a budget committee or no?
I am not sure.
Okay,
They have a budget committee, I just don't know their schedule, but I agree with your point, which is try to avoid those conflicts as much as possible, because half of the folks are probably doing school after doing this. So how does this sound? We'll provide an update to the select board. Are there certain nights of the week for the rest of the board that are the committee that are good? Are there certain nights that you prefer? We'll just start with
The
Wayne.
only night that I have that I can't do is I teach, which now is the fall semester, and teaching at on a marriage group. I do a marriage because I do marriage counseling and stuff too.
What nights are those?
So it's Wednesday nights.
So no
And it
Wednesdays.
starts the same, 5:30 to 7.
So no Wednesdays, and then you're pretty good otherwise?
I am, and that's ending right up, but it's unfortunate, it's after we vote, it's ending in April,
So Wednesdays are no good, so if you have it for
For
you,
me, the only day that is not good is Easter Thursday, the 2nd of April.
April 2 is no good. Okay, great, and then at the end, Mike, see,
I'm also gonna say Wednesdays, I think, right? Yeah. Wednesdays.
No Wednesdays. Okay, so that gives us flexibility, so I think what we might be able to do, because we're on a compressed schedule, I think we might want to tentatively, I'm gonna pull up the calendar.
We should circle around with Chris as well.
Yeah,
is
Chris, do you-
Yeah, you there, Chris? Hey, Chris, are there certain days of the week that are bad for you, that are no good?
No, I'm not gonna be back in town until the 20, hopefully the 21st but it might be the 22nd.
Okay, so we have a couple options. We could pick a date right now, or we could see how the select board update goes and their feedback, and then pick a date after that. I have a general idea of your availability. Do you want me to just get a hold of everybody on Monday?
yeah, and then there's one of the other days, there's a planning meeting.
Yeah, planning commission meetings.
What day is that?
First and third meetings of the month, first and third Mondays of the month.
Okay,
Mondays are generally, yeah, you get the planning commission, then you get the select boards flip flopping.
okay.
Okay, so I think we've got enough Brandon to figure it out Monday for.
And is anybody else on any other committees?
Yeah, I think the few are on different. Yeah, we have.
Veterans, and when is veterans, is it critical that you guys
that's
are
probably
meeting
gonna be-
during this time?
That's probably gonna be next Thursday.
next Thursday.
Was the first one for you. So calendar wise, here's how we're gonna leave it is we'll provide an update based on tonight to the select board Monday. Following that feedback, I'll contact everyone with a plan for the next date. And then we'll give the public at least a few days, a minimum of 3 days notice, but ideally more. We have to hustle. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're at number 6. I'm gonna pause for just 1 second. Before we go into let's see here, the committee policy, just a couple notes. For anyone online, Brandon, are you able to tell if they raise their hand?
Yes,
or
I-
have a comment?
I can see it from here.
Okay. And an admin note, we have some select board members participating. Although they are not members of the budget committee, select board members statutorily can't serve on budget committees and select boards in Vermont. If they have a point of information like an administrative question or a question about times, dates, I think that's great. But I would encourage the select board members not to engage in the discussion, because based on the outcome of the committee's work, you'll be the legislative body that decides upon advice and feedback from the budget committee. The budget committee is strictly an advisory committee. We don't have authority to vote or approve budgets. What we do have the responsibility of doing is advise and giving feedback to the select board, which includes also feedback from the public. So for members of the public or the board, if you want to be recognized, just simply raise your hand so we can see it. We'll try to stick to the agenda. If we have comments, we want to keep the comments focused on the item of business at hand, and at all times be civil and courteous with one another. We have to all work together to give the select board our best feedback, represent the concerns of the public, and help the town get a budget in front of the voters that they can approve when it comes time for May. Any questions on just general conduct of the board? Yep.
I have one more deep item, so I think that either you or I or both of us should make sure we are available on May 2nd to be at the town meeting, because it actually says that we should indicate somebody to be there anyway, but I think it's a good practice going forward
Yes.
that somebody from this committee is there to answer to any questions.
Yeah, that's great. I would have loved to have last time. I was very sick, but I think having a vice and myself having a plan for coverage is definitely smart. So committee policy, there's a committee policy in here. It's an administrative item. I'm gonna just pause for, it's just one page really, and a couple more sentences. I'll pause if you've not read it before, take a moment, read it, then we get started. Does anybody need more time? We good? Okay. All right, so moving on with the agenda. Item 8, budget development timeline. We just moved around a few dates. I'm gonna ask the town manager on this budget development timeline. Is there anything you want to add to the dates, that we just discussed?
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the.
So number 8, review budget development timeline, or is that just a history lesson on the agenda?
So number 8 is establish meeting dates and times.
Are you looking at the same agenda out there?
I have the same as well.
I have the same thing.
Yeah.
What am I missing?
Project development timelines?
Yeah, but I think we should leave that towards
Oh,
the
you know
end
what?
or do it at the next meeting.
I
don't have the-
You are correct. Establish meeting dates and times. So we already covered that. We just covered the policy. I think we go to number 10 then, budget overview.
Oh, actually, hold on. Wayne also has a different one.
But on this was one, okay. This is the one I printed out myself. This was what's in the pamphlet you gave me.
Yeah, so the packet. The
The
packet.
package different. The package different.
Okay,
I
got
have
it.
it here. Yeah,
I printed
yeah.
my own too.
yeah, that's. The package different.
Yeah, the packet had the old agenda.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's not substantially different, but the one sitting here, is a little, I think we covered all of the same things.
And I actually wanna suggest one more thing
Yeah.
as we're going through housekeeping and policies and such. I would think that with Chris not coming back till the 22nd, is it possible, Brandon, that we send him the policies that we've gotten either printed here or that we printed ourselves, so he has everything and he can review it
Yeah,
before he gets back?
and he does already have that via email.
Oh, so he has the ethics, cause I only got the ethics hard copy today.
I see. When he takes his oath of office, then he receives that from the town.
Oh, but we can't give it to him ahead of time since he's losing another week.
We could, and I would just say that Chris was also on the budget committee last year, so
Oh,
he's
okay.
familiar with it.
Got it. Sorry, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, and we're about to do a budget overview, and, we just came out of the vote. I believe everyone knows how the vote went. If there's any questions, I've got a copy of the ballot, what passed, what failed. But I did want to just do I wanted to set the stage. And so for folks who are dialed in, it looks like we have about a dozen or so folks, and we've got about a half a dozen attendees. Where we are now is about where we were back in November. And on December 22nd, Joe Buglat was a member, Beth Hunton was a member. We came out of the briefings with the highway department, the fire department, the town manager. And on December 22nd, I gave an update from the committee to the select board. I'm going to very briefly summarize it just so you know where we were and where we are now. We met twice with the town manager on December 18th. The committee was joined by those representatives from the departments. We offered the following key feedback. And this was read into the record at that select board meeting on the 22nd of December. Town budgets and capital plan. The committee recommended that any proposed capital plan be presented separately from the draft town budgets, allowing residents to clearly see the cost impact of new capital expenditures. At the first meeting, concerns were raised regarding the proposed $7,800 highway department pay stipend. That item was subsequently withdrawn, was not under consideration. Overall budget increase. The committee expressed support for the proposed 3.9% overall increase in the draft budget. Members acknowledged the primary cost drivers, including the increased insurance rates, a 3.5% payroll increase, and a 6% increase in policing costs. And lastly, On social services funding, the committee voted unanimously to recommend revising the town's social services funding policy. And I believe that point was well taken by the select board. And I would anticipate this year you'll see a revision to the social services policy. So that's essentially where we were back in December. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to the town manager now, just to give us a quick overview. And I think the key here is really like the 50,000 foot view. We don't need to high granularity, okay? So Brandon?
So my budget overview is gonna be different than when we get into the general fund. So right now, I'm just gonna try to catch everyone up to speed with how the budget works. I'm gonna stand up here, that's what I will be seeing. Move this as well. See you guys. All right. So I'll begin with a brief overview of the town's budgeting structure. This portion of the presentation is intended to provide a general understanding of how the budgets are organized and function operationally.
Hey Brandon, just twist your podium slightly so you're taking it. Thank you.
So what I'll review is I'll review specific financial details under the general fund and after the highway fund is presented by the highway superintendent. The town of Weathersfield operates with three primary funds. So we have the general fund, we have the highway fund, and we have the solid waste fund. Those three funds are separated and we don't intermingle funds. Each of these funds is designed to account for distinct areas of municipal operations. While they are presented separately, they function together as a unified financial system to support town services. Each fund is balanced, so we balance each budget to zero, which means the revenues in each budget have to match the expenses. The general fund is the town's primary operating budget and supports most municipal services. It is made up of several department budgets, including administration, shared services, finance, town clerk, listers, land use, police, fire and emergency services, and the library. The administration budget supports general government operations. This includes staffing such as the town manager and administrative personnel, as well as expenses related to municipal facilities. So the Martin Memorial Hall, the 1879 schoolhouse, also our two fire stations, the library. And in addition to each of these buildings, we have building costs. So we have electricity costs, we have fuel costs, we have building maintenance costs, and all of those are built within the budget to ensure that town buildings can operate correctly. We also have in the administration budget, we have cemeteries, community programs, and other townwide services. The shared services budget, which is the second budget when you flip past the administration budget in the budget packet. This consolidates common operational costs such as office supplies, postage, telecommunications, information technology, and software. By centralizing these expenses into one single budget, the town improved efficiency, transparency, and consistency in how shared resources are managed across departments. Before we created that budget, there were office expenses in every single one of these budgets within the general fund. So we consolidated them all into one centralized budget to show the true number. Because you might have $500 in office supplies in one budget, 500 in another, so we just put them all together. And then we have a 5-year history that we consolidated as well. The finance budget supports the town's financial management functions, and that includes the treasurer, accounting services, financial software, and the annual audit. This function ensures accurate financial reporting, compliance, and fiscal oversight. The town clerk budget supports the statutory duties of the town clerk's office, including land records, elections, licensing, and public records management. This budget also includes associated operational and software expenses necessary to maintain these critical systems. One of the things that you'll see in many of these budgets, especially in the general fund, is you'll see a line item called NEMRC services. So NEMRC provides all of our modules for all of our departments, such as finance. So you have accounts payable, you have payroll, we have the grand list, we have PAMA, and so forth. And all of our modules are through Nemrick Services. And Nemrick is also the same company that's doing the townwide reappraisal. The Lister's budget supports property valuation and the maintenance of the grand list. While we do have elected listers that provide oversight, the town contracts a professional licensed assessor to ensure compliance with state requirements and accuracy in property assessments. This function is critical as it directly impacts the town's tax base. So that's basically what we have in the listers budget. We have 3 elected listers right now, and then we have a professional assessor that handles the specialized areas of the assessing in the town. The land use budget supports planning, zoning, and development review activities. This includes administration of zoning bylaws, permitting, and coordination with regional planning efforts. The land use administrator works with the planning commission and the development review board. So he's, every Monday and every first Monday and third Monday, he attends planning commission meetings. He also handles all of the land use issues with the town. The police department budget reflects the town's transition toward a locally controlled policing model. This budget establishes staffing and operational capacity to provide consistent law enforcement coverage. It does represent a shift from contracted services to a town managed department again. For decades, the town had its own police department, and last year, our police chief resigned and he became the police chief in the town of Windsor. We contracted these services to the Windsor County Sheriff's Department. The town of Weathersfield Select Board terminated that contract. We're receiving all of our equipment, cruisers, and police inventory back. We have advertised a police chief position. I have appointed a police chief search panel, and there was 9 members on that panel, and they will meet next Tuesday to review applicants. We have received interest in the police chief position. The panel's responsibility will be to review applicants. We also have a law enforcement consultant to the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, Trevor Whipple. He attended that joint 3-town meeting that we had. And he'll provide guidance through the process. Suzanne Terrell, I'm intentionally not sitting in that panel because I'm going to do the final round interview. Per statute, the town manager appoints the police chief. So the panel is going to review applicants, do the interviews, and then they're going to make a recommendation to me on 1 or 2 applicants to do the final round interview with. And once they make that recommendation, Human Resources and I will set up the final round interviews, and then we'll make the decision to officially appoint the town's next police chief. We expect this process to take anywhere between 30 to 45 days. Once the police chief is seated, the police chief will be responsible for hiring officers. And we do anticipate on meeting all deadlines. The one key question now is dispatching services. We've reached out to the town of Hartford. We've reached out to the town of Springfield and several other entities to figure out, what each of these entities would charge for dispatching services and where we can get the most bang for our buck.
So Hartford, Springfield as well?
Hartford, Springfield, Woodstock, Wyndham County, VSP. VSP offered dispatching services to the town at no cost in the past. And they don't charge any of their other customers. But once you leave
Won't
VSP,
take you back.
they won't take you back. But my argument is we never terminated services. There's no official record of me ever terminating VSP services. So I voiced that to VSP and they said, hey, can you check with, a couple of these entities and shake some trees, see if you can get dispatching services elsewhere. If you can't, come back to us and we'll see if we can work something out. However, VSP is working on a fair allocation formula to charge for dispatching services. So that fair allocation formula is currently in progress, I guess, with the Department of Public Safety. So I'm thinking in the future, there may be a mechanism for towns to come on and come up and a formula for charging towns, but right now they don't have that formula in place. That's why they're hesitant to take on the towns. Okay. The only change that I've made in this budget is I built out a police department budget. Reflecting what the future, I worked within the same number. This budget is different. I originally proposed that we partner with Reading and Cavendish on policing services. Then many different things came down the pike. Our budget got voted down. I believe that right now we can't move forward with that effort given we don't have a budget in place. So in the job advertisement for the police chief, I stated in there that we would like to work on a regional model. What a regional model would do is it would share the cost with 2 other towns.
Right.
So overall, each town would pay less for law enforcement services. And that was really the goal of this partnership, you know. Individually, we're small towns. Collectively, we represent about 5,000 people. So it makes sense to consolidate and do a regional policing model and share the cost of policing services. Ultimately, each town would end up getting more policing coverage. I think we need to get a budget in place first, a police chief in place, and then I'll let that police chief work with me and the other towns to see if we can get an agreement going forward.
So I have a question. So when I reviewed last year's budget to your new policing budget, or actually I reviewed it based on the budget that you gave us in that police meeting. So that's why the numbers are different, because I think I saw $1,000 difference and I wasn't sure why.
Is there $1,000 difference in the budget that we proposed at town meeting, or was there $1,000? I know where the $1,000 difference is. Our police Army Corps of Engineer grant increased by $1,000. So I figured I ought to reflect that in the revenues because we are receiving 1,000 more in revenue
Okay,
there.
got it.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Brandon, are you at a pause or, because I want to see if folks have questions for you.
I got a couple more budgets to hit. It'll be very brief.
Okay.
And I'm not getting into any numbers right now. I think we can do that under the general fund discussion. And what I'm trying to do is just kind of show all the moving parts of the budgets and what the budgets do and so forth. And then once we get into the general fund and the highway fund, we can actually talk about the line items.
Okay.
But for those that may not have participated in this process in the past, I felt like this would be a good introduction to the budget.
Sound good.
All right, the next budget is the fire and emergency services budget, and that supports the town's fire protection and emergency response capabilities. This includes stipends for firefighters and officers, operational costs for facilities and equipment. So they have 2 stations, 8 trucks, dispatching services through Hartford Dispatch, ambulance services through Golden Cross Ambulance, and ongoing maintenance of all of our infrastructure, our buildings, our trucks, our PPE, and so forth. The library budget supports public library services. We do have Mavis here tonight. Are you still the chair?
Yes.
The chair of the library board of trustees. This budget includes staffing, programs, materials, and facility operations. The library serves as an important community resource for education, access to information, and community engagement. There's 1 library director, and then there's 2 part-time employees. One's a circulation coordinator, the other is a youth librarian. They each work 12 hours per week. So there's 24 hours of part-time staff there, and then they only have a full-time library director. The highway fund. The highway fund is a separate budget dedicated to the construction, maintenance, and repair of towns, roads, and infrastructure. This includes staffing. We have 1 highway superintendent, Ray Stapleton is here. We have 5 highway operators. I believe, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 of those are full-time. 1 of them is Tyler, who's 10 hours per week, correct?
We have 5 full-time.
5 full-time and 1 part-time, okay. So we have 5 full-time highway operators, and then we have 1 part-time highway worker that's shared between the highway department and the transfer station. That gentleman is 30 hours per week at the transfer station and 10 hours per week within the highway budget. Lastly, we have our solid waste fund. The solid waste fund accounts for the operation of the town's transfer station. This includes both fixed and variable costs associated with waste disposal and effective recycling services. This budget was approved. This budget is a bear. It's made up of fixed revenues and fixed expenses, variable revenues and variable expenses. It requires pretty much monthly tracking to make sure that our punch ticket reflects the cost of our variable expenses. And it's also shared between 3 towns. We have that 3-town structure with the town of Reading and West Windsor. We have a fair allocation formula that distributes the fixed expenses across the 3 towns. That went into place back in, I think, 2021, 2022. We created an intermunicipal improvement to share those services. We won't get in it tonight, but we will be getting into it this fall. And that budget it's a smaller budget, but it's more complex than the other 2 funds, I would say.
Is that, excuse me, is that included on the highway? I'm trying to look on.
No, it's separate, it's completely
It's
separate
separate.
and it's approved.
And it's already been approved, so we're not gonna discuss it tonight, but I did want to bring up the fact
I
that
don't.
and the solid waste fund is an enterprise fund. It doesn't operate from tax revenue.
Yeah.
It operates from the
I don't
fees
have
it
any-
collects.
Yeah, the voters approved solid waste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I know it's covered by the solid waste, it always.
So to the
pays for
solid
itself,
waste,
but-
is there a way to automate all this manual stuff that you do?
Oh, that's it. I want to keep us focused on the
Yeah.
on the
Yep,
presentation.
And like I said, we will be getting into this
No,
fall, but not tonight.
Yep,
Because
okay,
it's
got it.
already approved. And I think the business right now should be the general fund and the highway fund.
Yep.
The last thing I wanna explain is the process for creating the budget. The process that we went through to create the FY 27 budget. So I myself have a financial background. I do have a master's degree in public administration and organizational leadership. And I do have experience in governmental budgeting and finance. I have an approach to creating the budget, and that's a zero-based budgeting strategy. So every year, we start at 0, we pull the line items up. We don't take an average because those aren't real numbers. We put in a lot of work to create this budget. We send out requests for quotes, we send out requests for proposals, we negotiate contracts. For example, we just negotiated the information technology contract with CCI had a 2% increase per year. The last time we negotiated, it was a 1% increase per year. But they started at 5%, right? So there's a lot of negotiation that takes place in the background. Another is our website. Our website increased. Well, we were like, what other options are out there? And they were all like double or triple or a bit. So I meet with the department heads. Typically September, October, we start the budgeting process. Start at 0, we build the line items from there. We have a purchasing policy, we do competitive bidding, we do requests for quotes. We look at our insurance costs, we look at our telephone and internet costs. So every line item that is in this budget, we have went through with a fine-tooth comb. Once the department head and I reach an agreement on their budgets, I then send that to the budget committee for review. The budget committee and I do what we're gonna do tonight, which we did back in November, December. And then we send it to the select board. And we do budget presentations, budget hearings, typically with low attendance. Then the select board officially approves the budget and then it gets sent to the voters. That process did take place for this last budget, and that process did take place the past 6 years that I've been doing this. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of history on that.
Does anybody know the last time it didn't pass, or does not anybody not remember it ever not passing?
I've
In recent
never
history?
experienced this since I've been here.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm saying
now-
past 6 years.
I will say this. In the past 3 years, we've all experienced significant inflation. We're at a time where there's rising costs and it's a constantly moving target, not only for the town, but for businesses, for individuals. So it was only a matter of time to when we had a conversation like this, and I think a conversation like this is good. Because we can really dig into these budgets and I can give full explanations on why some of these line items are increasing. Insurance, out of our control. I'm actually overstepping. We need to,
Yeah, you're just about wrapped up, right?
yeah, I'm wrapped up.
So here's what I'm thinking. One of my major goals is we really need public comment and feedback. Everyone needs it, I wanna make sure that the public is able to provide that comment, so, we can start in the room, but I also wanna be able to check online. Now, if someone raises their hand, are we able to see it here, and can you, let them speak from your computer, or how do we do online
I
comment?
think they just unmute themselves.
Yeah.
That's what Chris did.
Does anybody online, we'll start with online, does anybody have any questions about the budget overview? If you do have any questions, please raise your hand.
Hey, I don't see any hands up, but there'll also be opportunities in the rest of this meeting to comment, and so we've got some folks present. Any questions, for the town manager at this point?
The budget overview as far as goes.
Yeah.
So why don't we move the podium back to the middle? So the owl will fit in. And all I ask you to do is, if you have a question and you're, just come up to the podium, state your name, and then let's hear your comments.
Yeah, I mean. Ron Flat.
Ron.
So my questions are, I mean, I'm not sure what the voters are looking for or a number. And none of us know that. So when I was voting a couple weeks ago, whatever. Most of the people were seniors, like myself now. They're not on Facebook probably, so we need to get something out to them. To see what they're looking for, a short survey or something. Because the majority of the seniors are voting. You're not gonna know what they're actually looking for.
I think to answer your question, Ron, to communicate with seniors, for people that are not doing like Front Porch Forum, Facebook, a lot of people are not on those mechanisms.
Right.
And so I think the number one thing we can do is have them attend a select board meeting or an in-person meeting if they're able, or if they're able to zoom in. Because the select board is probably one of the most optimal forums for participation and awareness. Other than that, the town has the website where they post updates, minutes, documents. And then they kind of rely on Front Porch Forum and sharing news. I don't know if there are any other ideas the town manager may have on ways to get feedback from the community.
And this was
The
actually,
majority of the seniors probably that aren't
Yeah.
getting, so that the younger crowd, yeah, they're on everything, so.
Well, they did communicate in the biggest way possible, and they voted no.
Yeah, but we don't know what they're looking for.
And they're probably looking for lower numbers. That's a starting point.
Yeah, cause I mean, if everybody realized the seniors only got a 2.8% increase.
Mhm.
And then Medicare went up, so like me now, but and they only ended up with $38 a month extra. Unless there's supplemental insurance or not, so I mean, this is why we're at this point now, I think.
I think when we work through the rest of the agenda shortly, there will be an opportunity to revisit your comment on the 2.8% COLA. I know I've got some comments prepared, and the other budget committee members probably do as well.
I do too, but.
And then,
But I just wanna point out, so one of the things that we don't do, we only reach out to people on the website, Front Porch Forum, but the town, we as a town, or you as the manager, don't do any PR so that people know outside of here and
Yeah.
online. And so I don't know if it's worth it to have something to give to seniors that they can, even the one pager kind of thing that the schools did.
Yeah.
To help explain things more, because otherwise it's a black hole, because they're not coming here. I mean, some of them don't drive, et cetera, so.
Yeah, according to the last survey, 78% of seniors are the ones voting, so.
I think we've captured your point, Ron, so thank you, and I see that Mike has his hand raised, Mike.
In response to that, that also is gonna cost money too. So they've already resoundingly said no more money.
That's right.
And that's exactly where I was going, like, every time we send out a mailer, it's roughly $3,000. So, while direct mail is the best way to reach everyone, we did do that with the annual report. But every time we mail something, our postage. I don't wanna jump too far ahead here.
I think we can skip the postage cost, yeah, I think here's how we're gonna address it,
But I will
well,
say,
I'm speaking, please.
okay, sorry,
We are going to notice a town meeting.
Yep.
And we are going to have a town election day. And between the budget committee meetings being posted publicly and the select board meetings being posted publicly, right now, those are the the primary mechanisms, especially with this compressed cycle.
Yeah.
Long term, definitely a bigger issue, but short term, we have our public meetings, our open meetings that are posted, and then we have our town meeting and our election day. I don't think you're gonna be are you going to be mailing out, you're not gonna mail out another town report, right?
I am, I'm gonna mail out a budget narrative
Okay.
with the revised budget. And I'm going to show the budget that we proposed first. And then our revised budget and any differences that were made between the two. And I'm gonna print that out with doolittles, and then we're gonna mail that to every voter in town, similar to what we do in the annual report.
but can we make it more like, remember, if you remember our last meeting, folks were talking about a storyline so that we're actually
Yes.
telling the story of what's happening, and now we need to tell a story, which I have to say, Ray did an amazing job. I read through his proposal and the way that he outlines it, it's really clear. We're now removing this and it's gonna give us extra that. So I like that approach.
Yep, absolutely.
So, so this is great, so we're gonna do a mailing to the community, and what time frame do you think that would be?
So with, and that kind of gets into the time frame of why we need these hard stops, and I would like to mail that out. And have it in the hands of the voters no later than 10 days prior to the town meeting.
Okay.
Um,
And that was a piece of feedback too, is I think a lot of people were commenting, I can't remember I think they were saying like 7 days out, they were checking their mail and it arrived. So I think in some cases,
so I think April 16th, it should be mailed out.
okay,
Which day?
April 16th. We
So,
should have that mailed out, and I would like the budget committee to provide feedback on that budget narrative.
okay.
so
I wanted to just let you know, I'm going to go to the Perkinsville post office and see why they delayed sending, because half of the town got it in a timely manner and half of the town got it late. So I know the postmaster there pretty well, so I'm gonna go make sure that that doesn't happen going forward, so everybody gets it simultaneously. Yeah.
okay, so any other discussions, Wayne, Mike, any comments? Okay, I think where we're at right now, is there anybody online that has questions or comments at this point? We've got a couple more things on the agenda to work through, and then I do plan on pausing for discussion, feedback, and any motions that we want to make. So I don't see,
Sorry, I can't figure out where the hand is. It's Rika.
everything.
So if I'm not interrupting, it's whenever I'd love to make a
The
comment.
one thing I would say at the start of the meeting, I made a point, just to be mindful that as a select board member,
Right,
you'll be voting on our matters.
right. No, it has nothing to do with the budget per se. I was thinking that in terms of the post office, we just have to let all of the post offices know that if they are unable to send that mailing out by such and such a date, whatever that is, 10 days, 12 days before it has to be received, they have to let us know. Because we have an obligation to get those delivered. And if they can't do it, they need to tell us.
And it sounds like Sophia's already offered to try to
Yeah.
get some traction on that, so
Yep.
I think I'll be grateful for her on that.
Yep, thank you, Rita.
Anybody else have questions?
I'm just not sure what you're doing with the agenda. Are you taking comments on the general budget now?
Well, right now we just did the budget overview and we discussed, I think he went over the highway and general fund.
I went through the highway and general fund, just a general overview, but not getting into the.
No, but I
details.
think we need I think this was meant to actually go through the detail.
He did an overview.
So the FY 27 proposed highway fund budget and the FY 27 proposed general fund budget is where we're gonna talk about the details of the. budget.
Oh, okay, got
The
it.
budget overview is just to explain to the town our three primary funds and our operations.
So both of these are meant to be discussion.
Yes,
line
budget
item.
overview, if anybody has general questions over the three funds that the town has.
Okay,
And then 11 and 12 would be the details of the FY 27 budget, line items and so forth.
So Beth, you could do a comment now, or you could wait till he goes into more
I'll
detail.
wait till you get the general budget.
Okay, so I think we're at 7:19, so I think we're doing okay on time. So Brandon, you want to shift into the next item?
Yeah, I would invite Ray Stapleton to the podium. To give a presentation on the FY 27 how to plan that.
I thank you for this opportunity to talk about my budgets. I don't know where to start. I mean, really. If I make,
This is your time to deliver your message.
So, traditionally, I take the budget process extremely seriously in the highway department. I really try to invest money where I know it's gonna be a cost benefit in the long run, save money where I know that'll be a benefit. For instance, when I first started, we had a carbide blade on our grader that you had to put a front blade on, tap the carbide, to make it wear longer. So you have two blades, twice the thickness, and it takes more fuel, more power to dig into the road and fix it. I've now switched to a single 1 inch thick blade with hardening on the front, plus the carbide. The thing lasts almost 2 years. It costs 1.5 times more, but it lasts twice as long. So that's the kind of math I do in my head. Anything I purchase for equipment, I try to purchase a jack of all trades. I don't try to focus on one use because it has to be able to be a multi-functional piece of equipment. I need a hydro seeder, I bought a used one. I buy retread tires. I try to save money where I can, but I spend higher money where it outweighs. I've been struggling since failure of the budget, trying to figure out what to cut. Everything's connected. So if you cut, everything will cost more in the long run if I cut, and it's hard to explain how.
but your budget, your regular budget only failed by 9 votes.
It failed by 16 votes.
Oh.
Regardless of how many votes.
I know, well, but it does matter because the capital failed by 2 to 1. Just like our municipal versus 16 votes where it was much closer, where people understood your general expenses, so. I think. In terms of this budget versus the last budget. What other changes did you make to?
This is the budget that was voted on and failed. We have not made any changes yet. This is our very first meeting on the
Oh,
budget.
okay,
So this is where we're gonna have an opportunity to get feedback. Hear from the public and discuss it as a committee as well. And I think what the public, they voted for certain items that passed and carried. For example, I think it was a $10,000 culvert article. I think was one of the ones that passed, right?
I think it was 20,000.
It's
Yeah, so that was an indication that the voters supported, supported that. You came, like Sophia said, you came very close. So this is where we can hear concerns, discuss it, and give you feedback.
Right. I'm trying to figure out where I can. Cut. For example, I have culverts already ordered. That'll last me this summer and this year. I can cut the culverts out of the budget, but then it's gonna be automatically have to go back next year. So you're just gonna see this and then back up again. I really don't think people wanna cut services. I don't wanna cut services.
What's your percentage increase in your current budget?
2.12%.
Wait, sorry, and
2.12%.
it's 222 on my budget.
Yeah, that's good fun, good, not extent.
All of the presentations I've done, I've been forwarded 2.12, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
2.2.
It's fairly small difference, but 2.2 is what we have.
Yeah.
And I think that,
I just wanna make sure I'm putting it right.
2.2, yep, 2.2. So you're not driving the overall increases.
No.
The highway department is not driving the overall
No,
amount.
but I need to look seriously at the budget because it failed, period. That's.
Right.
I'm just trying to explain. I guess in hindsight, I wish I hadn't cut so much to this point, because when this happens, then I can make a cut. I've worked really hard to get the budget down. We've gone from 9 people to 6 people. I've gotten rid of one truck already. And the new capital plan eliminates another truck out of the rotation. I'm planning on buying a used tractor to replace the old tractor we had that's 1978. I wanna rebuild the loader and keep it as long as possible instead of buying a new one, because that one's before all the computers, before the debt system and all that. So I guess I'm struggling personally because I know what it's like to have high taxes. I've experienced it with my own family. So. This is hard for me,
Okay,
and
well,
I'm just trying to let people know that everything's connected, so if you cut something, it's in the budget. To save money in the long run. So if you wanna cut paving, that means you do less paving, that means it goes, if the condition deteriorates on the road, it's gonna cost more to fix it. Because you can't just put a shim coat over it, now you gotta do more work to get it back. Same thing with grading, ditching, if you don't ditch, then your road washes out, then you spent overtime and materials that weren't expected to be spent to fix the washout. So, that's where I'm at, I'm struggling, sorry.
well, understood. What I want to just pause and see if anyone has questions for, for Ray. Any questions? Yes, I saw, who's hand up first? Okay, Ray, do you want to, grab a seat? Beth, do you want to come to the podium?
And we do have one hand raised on live.
Okay.
This is the spring.
Okay.
My comment says, I'm Beth Hunton, I was on the budget committee last year. I think strategically, we're aiming for a 2.8% increase overall, because that's what COLA was. And I don't know what, I think Ray's budget is fine, I just don't know how you present it to the voters to get them to vote for it. Not very helpful, I'm sorry, I don't know what you cut, I've looked at this. Because even if you get rid of the $25,000 to capital reserve, then you're out next year. I know this budget, I studied it a lot. It's 2.2%, it's way below 2.8%. I think that's a reasonable increase considering how much everything costs. And by the way, what is your fuel?
The what?
What is fuel?
Fuel costs.
I know I'm very concerned, but I mean, again, and that is complete, in 3 weeks, we're now
And it's gonna be
up to
crazy.
270, I just saw 275.
I
Yeah,
saw almost $4 a gallon today.
so thank you, not helpful, just for my opinion
Okay,
on
and
that.
do you want to get a couple more questions out there? I think that's, so you're next, and then we have one online, so.
I'm Nicole, on the highway department budget, I was just wondering, like, for some of the things, like the uniforms and cleanings. What, does the highway department get their uniforms professionally cleaned?
Also, the answer now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry.
that was your question, right?
Yeah, that was one of the questions, and like,
Okay.
I didn't understand how, like, what repairs for non-vehicle went up that much, is it the culvert repairs that are like making that jump up to $78,000, and then like some of the supplies, parts and fluids, like dropped down to $500 from 13,000, and I also had a question on the salt, because there was a salt shortage this year, I didn't know if that affected anything, if we actually spent the $40,000 that was budgeted towards the salt. since there was a salt shortage. I didn't know how like all of that worked out.
So Ray, do you want to take a minute and,
But
Before you go, I want to explain.
Thank you.
The repairs.
I can do that, man.
Okay,
Okay.
you got that?
I got it.
and the reason
All the
we're going up to the podium is so that this owl system captures it very nicely if you're at the podium for people who are zooming in. So, Ray?
Okay, thank you. So to start with fuel, it's scary, but every year is scary. What we do is we are very weather dependent in our department. So if we have a bad mud season or a lot of maintenance we have to do for walkouts or heavy storms, our fuel goes up, obviously, we drive more fuel. Some years we have a mild winter, so we spend money less on salt and fuel and cutting edges and chains and tires. But I can't say, I think next year's gonna be a light winter and cut the budget and then spend more. So we try to stay kind of even keeled. One thing I try to do is you typically will have a fund balance in a highway department. It's just, if you have a weaker winter, it'll be there. There's no way to really shrink it up anymore. To answer your question, yes, we do have uniforms for our personnel as part of their employee package. We also supply $200 a year for boots. These boots here are now $300 a pair. So I put in $100, the town puts in $200. The uniforms we feel are important because for one, you look more professional.
But the question was, do they get professional complete?
They're rented. They're rented
Rented,
from
okay.
the company, yes. And I do shop around. I found that I got rid of the old companies that they kept going up. And now I'm in Cintas and their price is pretty reasonable per employee. Repairs on the vehicles and supplies, that has been changed for tracking, better tracking, so we can manage our budget more precisely. Before we had a repairs and supplies line item and that covered everything, and now we're trying to track what do we farm out for repairs on a truck or a piece of equipment to go to Reed's or go to John Deere or go to Cat. What do we do in-house? So you'll see the supplies and the fluids, that's what we buy to change our own oil. We'll do our own brake cans, we'll do a lot of our stuff in-house. And then when it gets bigger than what we can do or have the time to do during winter, we'll farm it out to a company like Reed's for the trucks or John Deere or Cat to get the other equipment fixed. That is just all for tracking, so it's no longer in one category. That's why there's such a fluctuation in that this year. That's something we changed with on February. Brandon, did that cover it or?
To a certain extent, can I elaborate a little bit more?
Please.
So if you look at the FY 25 approved budget, repairs non-vehicle, about 3/4 of the way down the page, you'll see a number that's 75,000. Everybody see that?
Yep.
So that 75,000 consisted of everything that Ray just said. And what we did is we broke that out in FY 26 to the best of our ability into 3 different accounts to break that 75,000 out more, because a lot of stuff was just being lumped in there and we wanted to track it separately. So in FY 26, after the budget was approved in our accounting system, we broke that 75,000 out across various accounts. And then we ran it for a year within that same $75,000 budget, but we ran it for a year to see where we would end up landing at the end of the year on the projections and so forth. So the FY 27 proposed budget actually reflects a change in our accounting system to break that 75,000 out, which we thought would also improve transparency. But then again, you see these large increases and they're really not. It's really.
But is
not-
that explained? Like in the annual report, was that explained, like,
Not
as
the
a
annual
summary?
report, we did discuss it at public meetings, select board meetings, and did we bring it up at town meeting?
I did not,
Okay,
because it was the same money, but we just dispersed it through 3 categories instead of the 1. So
What
I
else?
see a hand up, by the way. I just don't, he's had his hand up a long time. So, Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to fully disclose before I start that I'm a former Budget Committee member and a current Select Board member, but I'm going to be talking as a private citizen at this point. I'm going to bring it all the way back to FY 21. And I'd like to say that Mr. Stapleton has done a great job of maintaining a stable budget all the way through. In FY21 for the total highway expenses, he was looking at approximately 1.2 million. In FY22, he was looking at just shy of 1 million. FY23, he was at 1.2 again, and FY24 proposed was 1.1, 1.17 technically. When we got to FY25, we are at 1.18, and the FY26 was at 2.83, the first one that was brought up. So this, I'm sorry, not two, 283. So this new budget that we have up forward
At
is
26,
right in line to go with the rest of inflation and the cost of going up on it. And I have to say that everything that goes with the highway department, I definitely stand behind what Mr. Stapleton has been doing to try and minimize our costs with things. And I think he's doing a phenomenal job with it. Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me.
Okay, thank you for the comments, and I think that was a good history lesson. And I would once again, if for the select board members, this is just encouragement for your consideration, but you will be voting, of course, in the future. You're gonna start receiving updates Monday. So I think the analysis is great. But we just want to be mindful of decision-making discussions. Right now, we haven't made any decisions.
We do have one more hand up.
One more hand up, go ahead, and just say your name so we know who you are. I see your hand up, but I do not hear your audio.
you need to unmute.
Get on mute.
He's trying.
I think it's Randy.
Oh, I don't hear you. I don't hear you. I think you might be muted.
Randy, you have to press the unmute button in the bottom left-hand corner.
Here we go. Sorry about that. Technical difficulty. First off, Ray, I and many people in this town appreciate the work that you and your crew do. So please don't take that personally, this budget thing. The fact that you've kept your budget under 3%, I think any other year that would have passed with no problem. I think this year, I think what were the two articles where the town was asking for the long-term payments? I think people associated that with your town budget. And that may be one reason why we're where we're at right now. I think I don't see how you can make any more cuts with your part of the budget.
And then you come right back in.
Oh, I think someone's got a hot mic. Might be Rita. Rita.
You need to mute yourself.
Okay, Randy, I think we comment well. I mean, Ray, did you want to respond at all, or?
I had one more question I didn't answer yet
Okay,
on my list.
so Randy, all set?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, salt is a nightmare. This is the third year in a row there's been a shortage. It's gradually getting worse. We have to buy our salt. We have to get a contract earlier in the year to put it out to bid. We used to be able to tag on to the state bid. The state got rid of that. Now we have to bid on our own. So our salt went from $86.50 to $98.25 in 1 year. It's usually only a couple dollar increase. And this year it's a significant amount because we weren't using the state bid. I don't know why they did it that way. But I mean, they deliver salt right here at Scotty for $90 and I gotta pay $8.25 more time to have it brought to the other side of town. So I have an issue with that. The problem is our salt shed is extremely small. I can put maybe 125 tons in it. That's one of the reasons I've been trying to, we already have a design for a new shed, if we can bump with a grant or the money. So you can get a whole year supply or 3/4 of the year supply of salt and we won't be so impacted by bad salt inventory. This year I was cutting back, I don't know if everybody noticed, but like Airport Road and Kenneth Corner Road are flat, we were salting them, I stopped early in the year, I saw it slowly coming harder and harder to get, starting in January, I could not get salt. I still have orders, I ordered January 11th, but I have not gotten it. I did steal 2 loads from the state garage and I bought one from the black market from Egypt for $120. I call it black market, it's just off contract. I got a hold of people that were actually calling it in from other companies and I had to pay $120 a pound, it killed me, but we were out of salt. Now I gotta hopefully get the salt. Anyway, if I had the proper storage, eventually I'll be able to buy my salt in the fall. And then this time of year, I can restock my salt shed for the next season at the same rate I'm paying this year. That bid is over in April, so May I can't do it. So in April, I can stock that shed up, and maybe next year when it goes up $8, I've already got a year's worth of salt pretty much in the bin. And it would, that's impactful. Anyway, that's my salt here.
But what is your plan? I know we're not talking about this right now, but the shed is.
We did a repair on the shed, a temporary repair 5 years ago. That was supposed to be a 5-year repair. I've been trying to get grants. There's been a lot of cuts in the federal level and through the state with grant money. The theory was we could build the shed exactly the same size we have, having the same issues, for about 150, 175,000 today's dollars. A new shed is about 600,000. But if I can get a grant, then I could still use that 150 or 175 it costs for a small one as our share of the grant to pay for the real size shed. If we can't, then we have to rethink it and either go with a smaller shed or bond it or figure it out, do a cost analysis and see if it's actually gonna pay itself off or not. For me alone, we paid $60,000 or $70,000 to replace our neighbor's well because we contaminated it with salt over the years. We're still loading the trucks outside. Salt does still fall on the ground. We can't drink the water in our facility. We have bottled water. You'll see that in the budget, for supplies. Because we have to provide drinking water for our crew. The salt, and I wash my trucks to rinse off the salt. I'm actually putting more salt on them because I'm using salty water. So sometimes I'll sneak up in my pickup and wash at the fire station. But anyway, that's what I answer my final.
Okay, we're doing pretty good on time. We're at 7:40. I would like to try to keep the meeting to 2 hours. Ron LaPlante, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question about just one question, 2 questions actually one of the statements. So I broke actually the highway department down by the wages and stuff like that, benefits. So she has no control over these $38,000 that's gone up. The wages and stuff.
Wait, what's going on?
Wages,
Benefits is his comment.
wages, FIC, retirement, insurance benefits, hiring, all that stuff. It went up $38,000. So he has no control of that.
Right.
So, I mean, the only question I have is the reconstruction paving, class 2 roads. It's up to 120,000. I don't know what is it? I mean, different question. That is our paving budget. Was named that years ago, so instead of changing the title to just paving, they call it reconstruction and class 2 roads. I know it's confusing, but we have a paving plan in place now where we're trying to keep our paved roads in good condition at a lower cost than just paving them. Traditionally, we would pave a road, pay a loan for 5 years, do no paving, and at the end of the 5 years, pick the next worst road and pave that one. Now we're trying to pave and do preventative maintenance every year, and that's why that budget's in there. There's also paving repairs, which is potholes and things like that. I believe this year we took 10,000 out of that, put it into the regular paving budget. I'm trying to transition to one paving budget. Okay, so the overall budget is not really up that much, except for the wages.
Yeah, I think just to recap before we go to the next agenda item, Mr. Buble gave us a good history lesson on the incremental consistency, and it's a 2.2. Just to recap, also Beth made a good point that if you're measuring things by a benchmark like COLA, he's coming in below the 1.8% COLA increase. So having said that, I want to make sure we have time for other questions, other people, and the next topic. It's the general fund. So if you could do it just you got a short overview.
No, I do have one final comment for the highway fund. Ray and I have identified some line items that we can scale back on a little bit. I don't think it is proper to send the exact budget back in order since it was voted down. So we've looked at line items such as fluoride as a possible area that we can scale back on a little bit. Ray and I, especially when the weather starts getting warmer.
Isn't chloride the salt? No, what's chloride?
Fluoride is a liquid calcium chloride. It's sprayed on the roads after you grade. Traditionally, it was used just in front of houses for dust control. But it's phenomenal for compaction and it makes that crust on your dirt roads. So when you do have a big rainstorm, the road doesn't wash off. Last year, for example, Brandon was looking at the Bowen Hill project. He thought the road was paved. That's how hard it was. And it was kind of black from the rubber. So I'm willing to cut back a little bit on it, but I do know it's valuable. And that's what chloride is.
So Ray and I basically jump in the work truck and we drive around and look at roads throughout the year. And when I saw the Bowen Hill road, it was the road was done so beautifully, and that was from using chloride. I said we may want to think about increasing chloride because of its value. So that's why we saw an increase there. But I think we don't do as much of an increase this year. We increased it, for example.
Actually, it was
45,000, 52,000.
52, yeah.
So I think there's some opportunity to reduce some line items by $1,000 here, a few $100 there, to try to get some of the line items down a little bit and represent the budget. And when we do the budget narrative, Ray and I will get together and really go line by line and explain everything. In the
I
budget
think that's
narrative
gonna
that
go
we
a
sent.
long way, but explanation, so it's not, I mean, there were so few of us at the town meeting.
Yeah.
That very few of us heard Ray's explanations, etc., and there were so few people otherwise. I think it's worthwhile to have it narrated. Like we're telling the story in the report,
Yeah.
so people can make a decision.
I couldn't agree more, and we're gonna do that from this point going forward.
Yep.
Hindsight's 2020. We get so caught up in the work that we do that sometimes we forget to do a piece like that. But
Okay, I'm gonna keep us back on target though, so we have time at the end for committee work and comment. So the general fund, town manager's gonna give us a overview.
Yeah, all right. Would you like me to say it for me?
I think people will be able to see you better and hear you.
I'm going to have it. Yeah. I don't like to be sitting with my. Now move this back over there.
It's observation that
You
committee.
guys okay with my, okay. So the proposed general fund budget reflects an overall increase of 4.2%, or $82,840 compared to the prior year. This increase is the result of several factors across multiple departments, including both operational cost adjustments and targeted investments to maintain service levels. Several line items have experienced increases, most notably insurance costs. So this includes general liability, vehicle coverage, boiler coverage, fire coverage, and property insurance. So we did see a large increase across all of the departments that had these insurance expenses built in them, such as the fire departments, and then also the general fund, which is our town buildings and police and fire trucks. That number is given, we participate in the Vermont League of Cities and Towns passive, and they provide us that number. So this insurance coverage increased, and it's basically either we break out of Vermont League of Cities and Towns, which is not recommended because collectively as municipalities, we go through the VLCT. So we could end up in a very expensive situation if we don't pay the additional cost. And insurance costs are going up everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, mine's
Not
not, our automotive and home really went up.
Yeah.
This in the last year.
You know, so when we're talking about the town, we're talking about, you know, we have our Memorial Hall. We have the library, we have the 1879 schoolhouse. We have Fire Station 1 in the Scotney, we have Fire Station 2 in Perkinsville. So those are our town buildings that our insurance is under. Then we have 8 fire trucks. we have 3 police cruisers. And then, of course, we have boilers, we have all of our general liability insurance. If we get sued, that goes under our insurance coverage going forward. Lawsuits can get expensive fast. You know, some can be in the 6-figure range. So all of this insurance is necessary for the town to continue to keep. The town's website costs have also increased. However, like I was telling you before, it's important to note that we evaluated multiple alternative platforms and service providers. Based on that review, the current solution remains the most cost-effective option available to the town on an annual basis.
What is it called?
It's Civic Plus. Many municipalities use them. And we're currently going through a website redesign, and that should go into effect in June. We'll have a whole new website, and that came with our annual renewal. Within the land use budget, we have added a part-time land use assistant. So that's important to note. This is a new position, 5 hours a week. This is one area where we did increase services because the land use administrator literally cannot get everything.
On the land use administrator, what was the budget allocated last fiscal year versus this fiscal year? Because we have a full-time land use administrator now.
Yep.
So what did it go from to the present?
So our land use budget went from $134,711 to $150,000 or $11,852 increase.
And it looks like you're proposing an 8.54% increase.
Correct, that includes that additional land use assistant.
Where is this?
So that is one area that I would be willing to strike this year, because it is an increase in services that differs from the previous budget. So I think that's one, and we can go ahead and strike right away.
So
And then-
strike the assistant.
I think that's proper at this point.
Okay.
This addition was intended to support the growing administrative and regulatory workload associated with permitting, zoning, and development review, and to improve overall efficiency and service delivery in that department. So by not adding it, what we're gonna be up against is timing. We get a lot of complaints about the processing of permits. So that additional 5 hours was intended to make that process faster. We can listen to all the complaints, and then also we want our land use administrator to focus more on zoning violations, because we have many of them throughout the town and they're very time consuming. So when we decided to add this additional assistant position, we had all of that background in mind. But I think we can truck through it for another year, and we can talk about this some more. We've lived without it in the past, so I think that's one area that we can reduce.
But I think.
We had a question. Beth had her hand up first, so I'm going to recognize Beth.
Yep.
And then Brandon, I had a question too. If the owl can pick you up okay here, has it been picking up okay here for the Zoomers?
I'm not sure.
Can we ask somebody, like if you're able to sit down here with your computer, then people can take the podium, you don't have to go back and forth.
Okay, sounds good.
Is anybody on Zoom, can you just let us know if you can hear Brandon okay? See Brandon okay when he's over here? Away from the
Loud
podium?
and clear.
Okay, thank you, Rika. Okay, Beth, you can go ahead, and then Sophia.
Just real quick, is this part-time assistant already hired?
No,
Okay, thank you.
Right, and then Sophia, you had a question.
I actually just have a comment, so. We should be specific in your summary to say,
yeah,
you know, there were complaints about timing and that people should expect the same. Timing issues to continue in order to save money.
okay.
But I'll just comment in here too as part of point of discussion that I think we went from having a part-time land use coordinator, right?
Land use administrator.
Land use administrator to a full-time And then another thing they were talking about at the planning commission was policy. Sometimes we're our own enemy with regulatory and policy. Things were, so that's just, I don't want to go deeper than that, except that certain policy changes would free up land use responsibilities as well. So Brandon, we'll go back to you.
Okay.
So can we make a note of that, so that doesn't get lost? Cause obviously we can't handle it here, but
Yeah,
for them to have an item, for Brandon to have an item that the policy should be looked at in order, so we.
Yeah, that went into the public record Monday night, which was what, yesterday?
Yeah.
So that was captured.
Okay,
All right, so in addition, the select board approved a 3.5% cost of living adjustment for all town employees. I do understand that the cost of living adjustment was 2.8%. We did a wage and compensation study, and what we're trying to do is structure it in a way that would bring all employees to average on July 1st. So that's another area that we can revisit.
I'll pause there too. From a budget committee standpoint, I have a comment, but I welcome comments from any of the members and the public. What I observed is we came in as a budget committee. I was sitting at a select board meeting. They did the 3.5% increase. It was over the 2.8% national COLA index. What I did not know until we started working through the budget is that pay raises had occurred throughout the year prior, correct?
Correct.
And so I think, and everything's, and in some cases a couple times, and so everything's fairly transparent in terms of percentage increases and amounts. But what I think sometimes can be lost is the process of pay raises.
Yeah.
So I may have a motion later on for us to consider. And our motions are only recommendations and advice and feedback. But my observation is that it may be healthy to look at pay raises being synchronized with the budget cycle. So when all the pay raises are done within the town hall and then an additional pay raise occurs prior to the budget, that ability to get feedback, promises have been made, people are hired sometimes, life decisions are made, benefits are, and it's not just pay, it's benefits. So I just want to capture that's an area of budgeting that can absolutely be adjusted. So I'll let you continue.
Yeah. So the town's approach to compensation is guided by data and long-term sustainability. Each year, we conduct a wage and compensation review utilizing data provided by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, which benchmarks municipal compensation across the state. Our goal is to maintain salaries at or near the average compared to similarly situated municipalities. So there's a difference between a cost of living adjustment and a wage adjustment because an employee has fallen below the average in the state.
I'm going to pause there. From the committee members, did you have any questions or comments on that methodology?
Did not, you talked about, I was gonna say that they had increases throughout the year and it wasn't just.
Yeah,
Might be more to that part too.
Well, I'll just give a brief comment and I'll let you continue. I have one comment, which is when you try to elevate Weathersfield wages based on a median or norm across the rest of the state, I would say that Weathersfield, like most towns in Vermont, is very unique. But we don't have a certain economic base like comparable towns. You can take many towns, like if you even just drive towards Chester or Lowell and you look at the number of businesses, or drive north of here through Heartland or beyond. The other problem is when you start elevating salaries and benefits to meet a state average, well, then the state average just changed. So next year, the average will be even higher across the state. And that's just my feedback. So I think that methodology can be flawed. And that's my comment.
and I have an additional one to that. I'm not used to it being done every year, like in the industry, you don't check where everybody is every year, you check where they are every couple of years or every, 3 to 5 years. So it might help us not exceed as much.
Yeah.
Are there areas, or are you about to talk about areas
Yeah.
that didn't get increased and that we can?
So I'm gonna keep going through.
Okay,
And we have another paragraph.
Yeah, so, thank you.
It's important to recognize that our employees are the town's most valuable assets. They are responsible for delivering the day-to-day services that residents rely on. Maintaining competitive compensation is not only a matter of fairness, but also a critical strategy for employee retention and operational stability. Employee turnover carries significant costs, including recruitment, onboarding, and training, as well as the loss of institutional knowledge and experience. So while investing in our workforce and maintaining competitive wages, the town aims to retain qualified employees, ensure continuity of operations, and continue providing a high-level service to the community. So when, while the strategy to ensure that employees are at least paid average, may or may not be flawed, we've risked and we've had turnover, and it's very expensive every single time.
Let's Sophie, why don't you go first and then.
Well, can you explain the turnovers we've had when we have, and what did we do? Because I don't have the history.
Ray, would you like to talk about highway employee turnover a little bit?
In the highway department, we've had several occasions where an employee has left. And our wages were well beyond where we could entice somebody to come. That was, 7 years ago when I first took over. We were well below average, and now we're in the average range. Every time you hire a new employee, you have to start the training process over again. You now have 2 guys in that truck, and it causes some upheaval. It's better. I will say now that we're on this cycle of getting into the average pay, we are getting better candidates, and we're able to replace people at a good rate. I will add that 7 years ago, we had a pay policy that was drafted and brought to the board. It was approved, and then the board dynamics changed, and then it was set aside. I really would push for a comprehensive, and I'm sorry, I'm not needed to step out of turn here, but I personally believe that if we had a structure where a new employee could look at what they could expect to get for wages through their career, and the town knows what the wages are gonna be, and it's all based on COLA plus your experience, plus your performance on reviews. It'd be way more transparent and less shell shock, and less need to have severe adjustments every 4 or 5 years. We've been through a pretty good adjustment in the last 7 years. I'm just saying, for transparency's sake, I think a pay plan with step raises and everything spelled out like the state of Vermont does would probably be the way to go for our town, at least on highway.
On the topic of, Wayne, go ahead.
I do have one question, about taking, like you were saying about the wage and stuff. Do the employees look at their weigh-in, their overtime as a percentage of like their wage? And the only reason I go there is because I remember when we used to be 8 hours a day and then 10 hours, and the overtime amounts to about 14% of the total, what the total pay is. 14%, I guess, yeah, wondering, because I know in some jobs, they look at that as, well, how much overtime am I gonna get if I go to work here,
Well, it's hard because we're weather dependent. It's not like a construction company or a paving company where you're gonna be paid in and getting a lot of extra hours. I had hired a temporary 2 years ago to come in and help plow, and he quit halfway through the season because he wasn't getting enough hours. It was really like winter, and it just it's hard to base. They don't base their wages on forward.
Mike, did you have anything? I didn't. So thanks, Ray. And so we're about 8 p.m. We got, Mr. Fuller, please.
I was in school first. Good point.
So I'm gonna jump up to the podium because this device will pick you up.
2 points. The town and the school, well, the school, I guess they can too. They're getting close to dangerously becoming part of society where they're pricing themselves out of business. Okay? Right now, a person that works the highway costs the town $80 an hour. Okay, that's a fact. Taxes, healthcare, whatever it is. And so when you add on the cost of truck to drive and haul. I can go right now on the phone and I can get somebody to run for $100 an hour for a 10-wheeler right now. So if there's a task, and I know the town manager did this 3 years ago with the listers. If there's a task that a service can provide, and there's statewide doing that with the listers right now because of the knowledge and everything, the training that's required for individual people, just regular people like me, as opposed to a company that's what they do. Payroll is another one, where that task shipped out becomes extremely efficient and less costly. I don't know what the highway does for hauling. It's a lot because the last 2 trucks we bought get 1.8 miles a gallon. So when you do this, like if you want to haul like a certain product, like let's say you want to do 5,000 yards and you let that go out, I think you'll find that that particular task would be cheaper rather than having somebody at $80 an hour and then another whatever it is it costs to own and to keep our trucks. That's what we're getting to. So 2 points. One would be that's separate. The highway is totally separate than the general fund, which is the office. But when you look at the total dollars that are spent now, Brandon already did this with the listers. I think it got up to be like $60,000 or $70,000, and when you put it on the scale for the rest of the VLCT towns, we asked them to do it. And then all of a sudden NIMRIC came in and they contracted a bid. And here you go. And I haven't heard any negative things about that yet. So I know we have 3 new listers. Don't know how that's all gonna work out. Or 2.
I think 2 just got elected.
I don't know.
We have a third.
So
But
I
it
have a
was fitting into the
question.
money.
So I have a question. So to the point that you're making that these folks cost $80 an hour. Aren't these the same folks that are then plowing? And
Yeah.
it's not so easy to find plowers, is it?
No, they all, but I'm talking about tasks. So once you say, I need somebody else to do something. I just happen to pick on the highway because I know that a few years ago it was $76. And when you add on the cost of livings that's happened over the last 2 years, I'm sure it's over $80 right now. And I'm talking about FICA, healthcare, all of the costs for the town. I don't mean to pick on them. It's a fact. It's public documents.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can do the same thing here in the office. Find out, identify what's going on and then say, okay, is a service, payroll does it, the school does it. I mean, they've done it for a long time.
And payroll, actually, I've seen payroll done in many places. In fact,
Yeah.
in the companies I've worked for, the smaller companies, farm out some of the like HR and payroll, so a service does it for you instead of you having to do it in.
I didn't interrupt, I just,
No, this is good.
when I'm listening to the examples that's going on, the school, when the budget went down at a 10% increase, they're up there right now, ready to knock on the door at 5. So they're working on a 50% reduction in the homestead rate. That's a lot. I don't know what's gonna happen here, but the absolute sticker shock here for me and as well as other people was, and it didn't get noticed soon enough, was a 24.28% tax rate up. Okay, you can't do that. What you need to do is say to the administration, look, the cost of living is 2.8. The closer you get that total tax rate to that means an assurance of a passage of the budget. That's just a fact. And I'm talking about trucks, I'm talking about all the things that go on in life, because that's what a house does. My sense is because of that number that was out there, if the school gets to 5, I think they stand a big chance of passing because it's close to the 2.8% COLA. But that's all I.
It's I hear that a lot, the feedback from the public and from folks tonight. And what I'll point out briefly is that what was your percent increase as a farmer this year? What percent did you get?
I was laughing inside when someone said,
And that's a rhetorical question.
When you said that the general public does whatever. I've had plenty of years when it's been, the government has told me that, I remember one year about 1990, milking cows, They went down 30%.
So for
In one
people who,
month.
for people who are self-employed, or employees at businesses, many of them get a 0% increase. For people who are on social security, VA, military pensions, they get a 2.8% COLA. The challenge and the dynamic is that history lesson, that 5 years. The general fund, the largest trend in increases is pay and benefits. So, for our town, pay and benefits has been a significant driver and it's outpacing COLA. The problem is, in terms of the fairness, in terms of what's fair or what's average in Vermont, Vermont is actually losing population. People are deciding to vote with their feet now and leaving because I got a 2.8% increase. I'm just one of hundreds in this town probably. But the reality is you're asking people who got no increase or a 2.8% increase to finance 9.4% increases, 6% increases, 10% increases, and not just in salary, but also fairly significant benefits increases. So what does that mean? What that means is the budget committee can make motions and advise the select board. And sometimes you don't have sometimes you might have less employees, but well-paid employees. Sometimes you might have a freeze on salary and benefit increases because the public can't afford it. And that's what the no vote indicated to me, Mr. Fuller.
Did you, just on a whole separate thing, and I don't mean to be interrupting, but has the town worked together with the school to hold the vote?
I talked to the principal last week, and they have a tighter deadline than we do. We're looking at holding a special town meeting on May 2nd.
So when I just left that meeting though, they're thinking about having a meeting prior to April 15th.
Correct, yes.
So that would mean too, and I think that's very wrong.
I don't know if it's necessarily meets Vermont statute either. I think the town has a statutory role in setting a meeting and setting a vote. So that's something that we owe some research on.
Yeah, and I hope that maybe you should reach out to the town clerk, right, coordinates elections. So that would reach out to the school. I would hate, I'm gonna tell you something, the school vote has gone down before. I've been here 47 years, 49, whatever. General fund's never gone down, highway fund has never gone down.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's serious, but I really think that the town and the school need to work together on the one single day voting. Because if they really wanna work together.
Their timeline is too fast for us.
They were talking about trying to do it before the teacher contract was up or something.
So they don't have to deliver X-Lex.
I think we have to capture it, and I think we have to communicate to the select board that this is something we owe, is an effort to synchronize those. Because to ask people to go 2 Saturdays to meetings and then go 2 Tuesdays, is, to me, it's rather unacceptable, if at all avoidable.
But to the point that Brandon just brought up, I mean, if they've got a different requirement that because they've got the teacher contract that's up in the midst of all of this, so.
Let's shift gears
But
here.
that, yeah,
So let's shift gears. Here's where we're at. We're at 8:12. We've got some business to do. But I want to see if there's anyone else in the room or online who had public comment for us to consider. So I'm gonna pause. We've all talked quite a bit. I'll pause. Any hands? Any questions?
Yeah, Beth.
Okay, Beth,
You know, I always have something to say.
thank you.
Dave, I agree with you.
Uh-oh.
I know. As far as the general fund, I think 3% is reasonable. I think you said that. If not.
That's the goal, I mean.
Yeah,
I don't make it up.
so I would ask the committee to try to do the 2.8%. And I like Brandon's idea of getting rid of the assistant land use. Hopefully that doesn't affect my job on the DRB.
It sounds good. I hear that you've already withdrawn so that's a non.
I believe I'm gonna do it. The goal of tonight was to present the budget that we presented at town meeting.
Okay.
Feedback,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna go through the general fund budget and see areas that I can cut back on without decreasing services. And see if there's any strategies that I can implement to reduce costs, but we contract some things out.
So,
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be, so my other comments were, I would be really careful with staff. Most people know I used to own a business and had many employees, and they are your most valuable asset. You do not want to lose them. So be careful if you're, I heard some people talk about cutting that. And then lastly, I think this failed because of the education budget. And we just got thrown in a mess.
Well,
So,
but it was the 24%, like Dave said, that really
yeah,
hurts too.
the whole pack.
all articles.
Yeah.
That's if all articles passed though.
Right.
That wasn't the general fund, the highway fund and the solid waste fund. We put articles forward that would save the town money long term, so it was an investment in the future of the town's
Yeah.
capital equipment.
So,
Well-
did Mike, did you have your hand up earlier or?
Yeah, when was the last time the town was audited?
Every
Oh,
year.
we had one. It is every year?
Every single year, yep.
Is there, can we see that or?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I can give you copies of the audits for as long as you'd like to see it.
yeah, okay.
Is that something publicly available?
Yes,
So that, could that be posted on the,
I believe it.
on the website?
I think that might help as well.
Well, while he's doing that, here's what I'd like to propose to the committee. It's 8:15. I did want to try to keep us as close as possible, 2 hours. I have a matter of business, to present. It is relating to the capital plan articles. And I have a motion to make. And how it will work, because we have some new members, is any one member of the committee can make a motion. If it is seconded, then we would go into discussion. You can amend motions. You can vote motions after discussion. You can vote for them, or you can vote, you can go yay or nay, and then the motion will pass or not pass, okay? But in discussion, we can hash things out. If we don't like the motion, we can also move to withdraw it. Okay, do you understand? So, in light of the capital plan, the capital fund articles,
And did you review the revised plans?
yes,
Okay.
yes, I did. So here's my motions, and then the person who makes a motion, if it's seconded, they have the opportunity and the right to speak first. And I have a brief comment to make if that's the case. I move that the budget committee recommends to the select board that the previously rejected highway and fire apparatus capital plan articles not be reintroduced in their current or substantially similar form, including proposals that merely reduce funding without material changes to purpose or structure. Now I can restate that if anyone needs me to.
Yeah, I'd like to, I want to,
What I'm moving is that we do not reintroduce the capital fund articles that were voted no. So the motion is that the budget committee recommend to the select board that those rejected highway fire apparatus capital plan, those funding articles, not be reintroduced in their current or substantially similar form. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, Mike seconds it. Now we'll go into discussion. Since I made the motion, I have the opportunity to provide brief discussion, then everyone can do discussion. Here's my discussion rationale. These articles were voted down by the residents following town meeting at the town election. They voted no. They voted no, I believe, to the tune of like 62%. And so under 17 VSA 2680 and the Vermont League of Cities and Towns guidance, a rejected article may return only as a meaningfully revised proposal. The two drafts here are substantially the same. It's just a different dollar amount. Town's already voted. Simply lowering the funding amount does not constitute a substantive change. Especially, it's essentially the same question you're actually asking the body, asking the town. Reintroducing substantially similar articles, I believe, would undermine the finality of that vote and the integrity of the warning process under 24 VSA 1682. Town meeting is the legislative authority of this town. The voters spoke, and they didn't, it's not an opening bid. They made a decision. So I would like to ask the committee's support for my motion to provide that recommendation. That's my discussion. Anybody else? Mr. Bullock.
Could I find out, and I don't know that it was done at the town meeting very effectively, but what is in the capital reserve for highway today? What is in the capital reserve for fire today? I think those are important under any circumstance.
What is our current capital reserve for highway and fire?
Right here.
Okay, and the fire, let's see here.
So the highway motorized equipment reserve account has a balance of $234,944.84. The fire equipment reserve fund has a balance of $98,540.56.
Any other discussion, Mr. Bullock?
Does the fire reflect the recent purchase and insurance?
Yes.
That's right up to date.
Yes, that's right up to date. The $150,000 number was used for the new rescue truck. And I do have that in there as 150, but I believe we're gonna come in a little bit low. So that uses the worst case scenario.
Well, that's really good news. I mean, you wanna get it correct, the insurance claim and the expense on the other truck. That's.
Yep.
You get it good. That's it.
So I have a question. So do we know what is the cost? If we don't do this capital plan for the highway,
Yeah,
what extra cost do we have
so
for this year, for next year, that's
Well-
not in the budget?
Well, there wouldn't be, if we vote it down, they don't have that money to work with this year for this year's budget. It could be reintroduced next year, it could be replanned next year. Interest rates will likely be different next year.
But, hold on,
They have to work within their base budget.
but what is the impact to our equipment and them making it for a year without doing any of this?
Well, on the highway side, Ray can speak to that if your
Well, that's
capital
why-
plan's not approved.
and then I'll speak to the fire side.
The plan was to replace a 2012 10-wheeler, the pickup, the 2016 pickup, and the grader. We've done a lot of finagling with the grader over the years, and it was decided that the best cycle was a 5-year cycle, because that was the best turnaround on what you get for trade-in. 1 year, we did 5-year warranty on one machine, the last machine we just replaced. And it got voted down by 18 votes. And next year we did it again and it passed, and it cost $75,000 more because of the depreciation. So the longer you wait, the higher the maintenance cost just to maintain them. And then depreciation, especially in like the grader, the truck is already beyond a lot of its value is already gone in 2012. So it depreciates by 50,000. You know, this year, it went at a 5-year cycle, it would have been 300,000. Right now, it's 250 is the estimate I got for the trade-in value. At 6 years, it has a year warranty left. Next year, if we do it, it probably, if it follows the last grader, will be $75,000 less because it's off warranty plus depreciation. That's how the last machine worked. So this is those numbers. I got a quote from Claremont Ford to service my truck, and it was about $4,000 to get it up for inspection, and then I need to fix the body or put a flatbed on it, and that was, the flatbed was, over the Maurice's was $6,200, and that's not in the budget if we want to keep it for another couple of years or so.
So we have a motion on the floor. I am not proposing a change to the base budget, which I think was what 2.2. I'm not proposing changes to that at this time. What I'm proposing is that we do not reintroduce the failed articles.
This, Dave.
Mr.
You
Fuller.
want to go first?
If I just heard everything, Brandon, can you clarify something? So if the intent was to put forward an article for half the money, and with the amount that you just said in the capital reserve right now for highway, I just listened to Ray say that all that money would be gone and the capital reserve would be zero. if you trade the grade and buy a pickup and buy a 10-wheeler, because I'm pretty sharp with money, and when you add up those numbers, you get up to 400,000 pretty quickly.
So I'd like to answer to a couple of things here. Let me just pull them up real quick. So on the screen, dude. Yeah, okay, we can see here. So FY 27 would be an addition of 150,000.
Yeah.
A withdrawal of 320,000, leaving the balance at $64,944. And then those would be additions and withdrawals over the next 10 years. I do believe that this capital plan is substantially different than the capital plan that we proposed. And it says that we do truck replacements from 5 to 7 years. We decided that we are going to purchase a huge tractor and then rebuild an existing loader. The dollar amount, the plan also substantially changed from 20 years to 10 years. I would consider that a substantial change as well. In addition to it went from 292,000 to 150,000.
What went before the voters was not a vote on a 10-year or 20-year plan. It was a vote on a specific amount for this 1-year budget. So I'll go back to my point. I believe it's out of order to resubmit a failed discretionary article that is substantially the same, even if it's just a reduced amount. So I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any other discussion from the?
Yeah, the only thing I would say on this is I think I love capital plans when they're put forward right, because I worked with them a lot. But I agree with August. I think this is a wrong time right now. I think this is what scared a lot of people. I think a lot of people don't really understand how capital plans work. We look at that and I know that you're not paying the interest, but I think, and perhaps something to think about, maybe another year, to do this, better explain it out to them. And who knows, the interest rate may be a lot lower than anyway. So I would, I agree that it's probably not the right time to vote it down unanimously.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. And the other thing too is there's certain wording in the budget cycle for this next go around. We're all appointed and we may expand. There's certain wording that should be statutorily in an article for capital funding for a long period of time. I say, the voters need to commit to something that's over 5 years. Yeah. And so, is there any? And here's the thing: this is a recommendation to provide to the select board. We're not the decision makers. The select board's going to have to decide. So
I'm nay.
So I haven't taken a vote. Any other discussion? I'll close discussion. Okay, discussion closed.
Well,
I'm going to call the vote.
Okay.
All those in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it. We have one nay. The motion carries.
So good question.
Yeah.
How come you didn't let Sophia comment?
Oh, did I miss comment?
Yeah, I was going to say something, but you cut me off and said no.
My apologies. My sincere apologies. I didn't recognize that, so I apologize.
Okay.
I would like to give you the floor right now.
So I'm just concerned that we're not realizing the costs that you may not put it in the budget, but they're gonna get in order to just do status quo. I think what you're suggesting is short-sighted in terms of budgeting. I don't think they can make it with the current budget as it stands. They're gonna go way over. They've got things that are dying. They can't make it a year without it. Right? Am I correct, Brandon?
No, I can actually answer that and then I'll turn it over to Brandon.
Okay, sure.
Now, we didn't vote to make any changes to their budget. Their budget's 2.2 right now. What the select board, the highway department, the town manager are gonna have to look at is, do we need to bump it to 2.8? To cover, do we need to change the base budget or rearrange the base budget to meet the short-term requirements without having a capital plan? So we did not do a budget change or a budget vote. What we essentially did was vote to recommend to the select board not to reintroduce the failed article. Now the select board, and this is where in our next meeting, so the select board will deliberate, Ray will deliberate, and he'll decide, do I need to make changes to my base budget to meet my requirements? And we'll be able to.
And you really think that's gonna pass? If
Well,
we
then-
go from 2.2 to 2.8,
I don't know, but that's the next step, and that hasn't been deliberated. This motion specifically related to not reintroducing a failed article for the capital plans. I hope that helps.
Thanks.
Okay, and then, Brandon, did you hear anything?
Yeah, I want to turn your attention to this chart right here on the screen. Part of my position is to try to figure out how we can stabilize finance in the town long term. In the past, we've done a lot of financing in conjunction with using reserve funds to finance necessary equipment. What this orange line here represents is the capital plan. It represents stability in town finance and replacing motorized equipment in the town. What the blue line indicates is what we are doing and what we will continue doing if we don't have a capital plan. This represents instability. This represents fluctuations in the tax rate. As you can see, this blue line in FY 29 is going to exceed the capital plan significantly, continue to climb up until FY 31, where you're going to see a significant tax rate increase. And then you'll see it start to dip off and then go back up again. That's all.
Yeah, I think, to just close out, first of all, any other comments from committee members? Okay, I think that you introduced the capital plan. I think there's an opportunity this year to further review it, but I think it has to be, carefully worded statutorily in the articles. And the other thing that we did not do the budget committee last cycle, we recommended right out of the gate that if your overall budget, we were very supportive of, hey, we generally support the draft overall budget of 3.9. But that the capital plan article should be voted separate. When we looked at the general fund, the highway fund, and the solid waste, we were under 3.9, I believe. What other factors contribute to like we just had $47,000 of special articles approved, right? So do we have an indication, like right now you've made no changes at this point?
Yep.
So you got feedback.
Which that was the recommendation.
The general, the highway, yep. But now we've had 47,000, I believe. I hope that's the right number. Because we did there was a $20,000 Washington Field, roughly $10,000 nurses, and then I think about $17,000 for smaller ones.
Yeah.
So how is that impacting our overall percent increase for the town budget?
It depends on if you're looking at tax rate increase or budget increase. So there's a budget increase. Okay. So that would go into the tax rate calculation, and it would say general fund, highway fund, Bowen Hill Culvert, and then it would say Parks and Recreation, and then it would say the special articles. So it'd be broken out, and you can see the increase in the tax rate there. So those aren't actually going to factor into the general fund or highway fund budgets themselves.
So let me
My
ask,
goal would be to take the general fund and see what I can reasonably reduce from the budget to get down to 2.8%. And then bring that information back to make sure it aligns with what the town is looking for. If it decreases services, I need to be transparent there and say, hey, this is what we need to expect with cutting this much out of the budget. Now there may be areas, and I was telling you this August, back when the budget committee was meeting and we were going through the budget. I told you that I could probably get it down a little bit more if I had more time. I ran out of time.
yes, no, I know we were under the gun, and so I think I'd like to just do an open discussion, if I may, with the committee. We've heard from the public feedback. We know that the COLA was 2.8%, right? We know that raise right now sitting at 2.2. The general fund is sitting at, what are we sitting at?
4.15%, I believe.
4.15. We also know that the past budget committee work was to try to keep the overall under 3.9. But I think that without the capital fund articles, the likelihood of a budget being voted favorably is much higher. what is the committee feeling on the discussion of 2.8% for a ceiling for the general fund? Now, remember, we're just gonna be giving a recommendation and advice to the select board, but I'd like to just go around the table and get your thoughts.
The current percent that you had was what?
4.2%.
Which one's the number number?
I think it depends on what's being cut. I mean, again, to the discussion of employees. If you start cutting stuff like salaries and such, you're gonna be losing people and you're gonna be spending more money trying to get new
I think
people.
the salaries are all locked, if I'm correct.
The salaries are locked.
So I don't know if you knew that, but I mean, they've already done the salary.
So all the salaries are already in, or some of it is still
No.
flexible?
What's not locked is the department budgets for payroll or benefits, I believe, because there are certain hirings you may or may not make.
I think I think you need to go down by line, and the ones that are the highest, that's where you need to be looking at. I mean, you got, I mean, I look down through there, some of them are 2.2 already, and then the list is off, is 8.54%. If you go down through some of these are a lot of increase, and I think that's where you need to look at that is,
I can
because the other
commit,
thing, it can be cut in or not, you know?
I can commit right now to getting the budget to 2.8%.
That makes sense.
But 2.8.
I do believe it needs to be cut.
Sounds very helpful, Mr. Fuller.
One of the phenomena on this last budget was, and it's really noticeable, you just said you can commit to 2.8, but I guarantee you the tax rate will have to rise 5.5 to meet that goal. That can't happen.
I'm gonna do a full review of last year's, even though our audit hasn't been released, I'm gonna do a bunch of actuals, figure out what our fund balance is. And I think that we can offset taxes pretty significantly this year by using fund balance.
Well, no, not the fast.
Can I ask, clarify something with Mr. Fuller? Did you say earlier like 5% for a tax rate?
Yeah.
Is something that the school was working toward?
Yes, so the funny thing about the school, because the state is really loading them with money is not transportation, which is a good argument for somebody to make, our house representative. Their budget is scheduled to rise 10%, but the tax rate is only going to rise 5%. Here, even under the budget that failed, was the opposite. So even a 405 figured out to be a 705 tax rate.
It is, because we used significant fund balance last year, and we had to make up the gap this year.
Well,
Which I always explained to everybody that we are putting ourselves in a hole.
well, not so fast, because I picked up, that we have $100,000, a little bit more in delinquent taxes. So,
That's been mostly resolved at this point.
okay, really good news.
Yeah.
So that should show up as an income in FY. Everybody needs to remember that we're on June 30th to July 1st, so it's not a calendar year.
It doesn't show up as an income, it cancels out like a delinquent debt from the prior year. So it doesn't show up
Okay.
as income.
Okay,
It's an account outstanding. That was a receivable that cancels out when the delinquent taxes come in.
so it's coming
Very
back.
hard to hear the people commenting from the stands if they're not at the
Mr.
podium.
Fuller, you come up to the podium so it can pick you up. Thank you, Joseph. And I don't know if anybody has hands up or has been waiting, but if you've been waiting.
I don't
please
see
let
any
us know.
hands up.
I only asked about delinquent taxes because it's a non-current year
Yeah,
revenue source. And you've done an excellent job at recovering literally $400,000 from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but we need to be able to walk that line like a lot less than that, so that we don't add to the tax rate in the FY 27 as a
What?
result.
what happens with the delinquent taxes is Suzanne runs a report. Based on where it stands right then and there, and then by the end of the year, they get resolved. So it just cancels out an outstanding account that is receivable. So for example, like. If you have $1,347,000 that you're supposed to collect in tax revenue. When we run the report in November. There are people who haven't paid the second quarter yet. So those are recorded as delinquent at that point. But by the end of the year, we end up at like 10 to 14,000. Back in the past, we had 450 to 500,000 delinquencies.
So
And
we're in a much more favorable situation there, and so for the essence of time, I wanna, I'm considering crafting a motion, but I need the advice of all the committee members. And I'd also welcome, comment, especially from the town manager. I think we may be able to craft a motion where we recommend that, we, set the budget at, at no more than a 2.8% increase for a tax rate goal of 5%. Overall tax rate goal. Or am I wording that correctly?
I don't think I can make that without significantly reducing services.
Where do you think we'd be at if we're at 2.8?
I wouldn't make a tax rate calculation goal right now, until I analyze that.
Okay.
information.
Let me consider this, let me ask the committee this then. We've had positive feedback that a 2.8% general fund is achievable. Would someone like to entertain, I have language drafted here, but would someone like to entertain a motion to recommend to the select board for a 2.8% budget increase of the general funds? And
I'm okay with that.
You okay with that? So let's see here, the motion, I'll restate the motion if I may then.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sophia's motion is to move that the budget committee recommend to the select board that the general fund budget be set at a 2% overall increase over the prior fiscal year's budget. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? We'll go into discussion. Sophia, was your motion. You start first.
I don't have any points.
Okay, Mike, I think, Wayne,
I agree.
town manager.
I agree.
Okay, any discussion from public? Beth?
Well, your wording was that you said set at 2 point, and I think you may wanna say no more than.
Oh, that's right. We started off with no more than, okay. So I will correct that. And I'll restate the motion when we go to vote. Okay, any audience questions? Okay, the motion, okay, any other discussion?
1 second.
Do we have someone in the, on the Zoom?
Those not with you?
Yeah, I wouldn't set a tax rate cap right now.
Okay, we'll leave the tax rate for further discussion. This gives the immediate feedback to the select board.
Yeah.
Okay, so no other discussion. I'll go ahead and restate the motion. The motion is to move that the budget committee recommend to the select board that the general fund budget be set at no more than 8% increase over the prior fiscal year's approved town budget.
No more than 2.8.
No, oh,
more than
no more than 2.8.
That's too late. That can't.
That was double.
That's why I needed 2 hours. I'm a pumpkin. Okay, so 2.8%, no more than. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. We have 2 motions to present to you in the select board. Other business, from the committee first, any other business? Okay, is there anything that you're seeking between now and the next meeting that we don't have?
I don't know, just the audit. Wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can actually, if you wanna walk upstairs, I'll give you a copy, but then I'll have Suzanne put the audits on our website as well.
I do wanna reiterate that we do have wonderful teams of people. I think everybody, no one debates that. The quality of town employees that we have is phenomenal. I don't think anyone debates that whatsoever. Having good fidelity on where we were and how we got where we are, those history lessons are important, and we just have to be willing to discuss that freely.
But I would like to add a point to that. I think it is value added to have that history in our book so that everybody has it. And that's actually one of the things that I wanted to recommend is that we create a historical document. If you look at page 140, with the going up and down of the tax rates. The negative, positive, I'm pretty sure some of it had to do with federal monies coming to us. And so just looking at numbers, you don't have the explanation of why. But if you actually have continue a running history. And again, remove years as we go, but to have like at least whatever amount you have in the book in terms of numbers. Have the reasons the things have gone up and down and what we just, and the other history lesson you gave us. I think it's worthwhile to have that, so it goes to the storyline that. Was a big comment from the other day.
I have a couple of comments too.
Yep, Brandon?
If you don't mind.
Yep.
So I was tasked with creating the capital plan, and I did a ton of financial analysis to develop that capital plan. And what I found was in the interest rates, to go to your point, Wayne, I looked back at 20 years of interest rates, and I took the average interest rate, and I also projected an interest rate. So it was based on the interest rate that I used was based on an average of 20 years of historical data projected out 20 years. So that interest rates fluctuate. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. I think Dave gave me a history lesson a long time ago and told me interest rates were only 12% or higher. And that was factored in, right? So those federal interest rates. I do think that another year of discussing the capital plan and getting more people involved in what a capital plan would do for us long term is important. However, we do have some critical highway and fire equipment that needs to be replaced. So, and of course, the select board would be weighing in on this, but we may need some special articles to borrow to make our capital purchases next year, which wouldn't affect the current year's tax rate, but would add principal and interest payments next year in next year's budget.
I think the feedback I would give, and I want to make sure, I'm going to speak briefly, but then I want to make sure that anyone else didn't get a chance to provide comment before we close things out. But the feedback I would give is we were looking at a very large school bill. We were looking at a very large, if all of those articles had been approved, an exceptionally large budget increase. Simultaneously, the pressures of the affordability crisis unique to Vermont. So that with think of the 70-year-old couple and they're getting their tax bill with a wild electric bill increase, wild fuel bill increase, and they're wondering, how do I eat? Well, the food shelf, I'll have to decide which food shelves. We have elderly couples visiting 3 or 4 food shelves because they can't afford, and also,
But I just
I'll
want
finish my comments and then I'll
Okay, go
turn it to
ahead.
you. So my point is we have to be mindful that the no vote wasn't necessarily strictly driven by one single thing, as like Beth pointed out earlier. It's all of those pressures are affecting, and by us doing the due diligence of trying to keep our costs at a minimum in the here and now. The circumstances may change next year. I think the school got a pretty good understanding that people were very concerned about the increase. So that's my little closing comment, Sophia.
I would like to revise what you're saying and say, this is not just a Vermont thing. This is happening nationwide. I actually, after our meeting, went to take a look at the house that I lived in last. And that house in 5 years has gone up another 40%. Okay, in the last state I lived in. And even when I left that state, I couldn't have bought my house that I was living in. I couldn't live if I hadn't bought that house 27 years ago. So the same thing is happening everywhere. Now, I just want to make sure that it is clear. It is not just Vermont. And I am helping people that are in New Hampshire and in Vermont and helping them get food. So it's not just the seniors, it's regular families.
Thank you very much. Mike Wayne, any final from the Zoomers? Anybody on Zoom have any closing comments, questions, concerns, anything we didn't address? Okay, We have one more round of time.
You've got a hand up.
We have a hand up. Ron, why don't you go first and then the gentleman on Zoom?
I think one of the big problems with, with budgets is the reassessment coming up. I think a lot of people are concerned about it.
Reappraisal?
Reappraisal, and they don't really fully understand it. That the town's only gonna collect X amount of dollars, no matter what they go up. But eventually, your taxes will go up.
Well, I think we heard some good feedback from you and from Sophie about communicating with the
Yeah, the
real.
majority of towns I've looked it up have gone up, and some have gone down, fairly gone way down. For their taxes, so I mean, it's not, I don't think people really understand it. How it works.
Right, the reappraisal is the reappraisal is
Right.
an
I
unknown.
have a lot
I
of information on it, and it's not being explained to the public.
I think probably, I think that's gonna be a hot topic. As soon as this budget thing closes out, I think the town's probably gonna be deeply engaged in that.
And that's one of the things people are concerned about, I mean.
Right.
My house value goes up $50,000, and property tax is gonna go up, X amount of dollars, that's not true.
Yes, actually.
So I know that,
Yeah.
but the majority of people don't know.
Don't know that,
Yeah,
right,
I
exactly.
think that's definitely something.
Yeah, we
that-
did, we did point.
We did hold public meetings.
But the information not getting out.
But even though you have a public meeting, doesn't mean that every other John, Joe, and like if we even made again, we're getting a new website, so it should get a lot better, but we should have potentially just even on the website, because one of the things we were saying, you said, seniors are not savvy, but I do know a lot of seniors who are savvy. I know 90-year-olds who are on the internet and can go look things up, and if you email it to them, they can open it. But if they try to find it, they're never finding it.
This goes back to, and I'll keep it real short, I think it's come up a couple, 2 years ago, one of our recommendations was website and a mass communication tool. Budget
Yes.
committee 2 years ago.
You could say postage. Just say-
Yep, so a mass email communications tool, many, they call them off the shelf tools. Because a lot of folks do email but don't do the social media, so I think Brandon, we'll capture that, and we'll give that feedback to the select board Monday, if that sounds okay. Okay, sir, we have one person on Zoom, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Xavier Becker. I own the farm, but that's by the waterfalls on Route 5 with my wife. And I'm always on Facebook, and I've seen a lot of the town talking about, taxes and the school budget and everything else. Usually where this happens is on a group, and the moderation on that group is very leaning towards one direction. So you get a viewpoint that is constantly getting reinforced, while another viewpoint is constantly getting, put down. I think that the town should probably have a social media manager that runs a town page where the more savvy of the residents can have discussion about things and it not get moderated out of existence. And that way, when they do show up to the town meetings, they kind of know what's going on. They've discussed it with their peers, with their neighbors, and it doesn't, blow up in everybody's face. That was just a suggestion as how two things could improve. And that's it. Have a nice night, guys. I'll listen for your response.
That's a very thoughtful, thank you, Xavier. Okay, any other, I think that's probably about it. The time is 8:52. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I'll give you that.
So yeah, when I was in the military, we had these mass communications, it's like assist tools, like on staff. Like I felt there was self delivery, and then there were these other ones too, like Army Air Force. They were amazing. You could, it was easy to use. You could put in their name, their address. if they have a landline, if they have cell phone, if they have email, and you get notifications like mass notifications, like it goes, I want it to go to your email, to your text, you know, their landline, a phone message, you could record a message. And you could hit it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it used before, and in fact, the town and the school that I was in previously was pretty technically small, but a lot of people.
Sure.
That's okay, I know what that is.
I don't.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop this recording.
Here,
You still recording?
why do you take yours off?
I don't wear, these are actually, my wife has real expensive good hearing. And these are just audience, they're cheap, they're just, the budget